Episode of the Locked On Astros podcast, and we were just waiting for something to come out. And Jeff Passan, he didn't say anything about the Houston Astros, but Ken Rosenthal came out with an article. And if you don't have The Athletic, we wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about that. He talks about Josh Bell and how Josh Bell feels about possibly coming to the Houston Astros and with the catching situation. So we're going to talk about this on a short edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram, and Astros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. We have just hit the 4,000 mark, and we're going to hopefully keep on going up. So, guys, keep on. We're trying to get to 5,000. Then keep on going from there. So make sure you listen to us on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make Locked On Astros podcast your first listen. So we wanted to kind of talk about some of the Ken Rosenthal's rumors that he's hearing ahead of the trade deadline. We've been kind of talking about this. Wilson Contreras, the Astros have had some interest. I believe Jeff Passan did mention this on Sunday Night Baseball. But Contreras is extremely expensive for a lot of teams, not just the Houston Astros. The Cubs are asking for arm and leg, and the Astros are not willing to do that. So it's something I mentioned on the podcast just earlier tonight was the Red Sox are doing a little fire sale. So the Astros have diverted their attention from Contreras to Christian Vazquez. And this is somebody that has killed the Astros in the past. This is somebody that, according to one source, they are forcing more on Vazquez. And Vazquez is batting .283 on the season with 8 home runs, 41 RBIs. He has a .759 OPS, a OPS plus of 108. And I believe that he is a free agent after the season. So it would be a rental, but still, I believe he's making $5 million this year. But this would be the backup catcher. He could play first base. I think he's played 20 games at first base in his career. He's played some second base, maybe a handful of games at second base, some games at third base, but he's primarily been a catcher, and he's he's a pretty good catcher too.
Well, here's the thing I like about him is he's got a fairly low cost to bring over here. We're not going to have to give away a lot. So if we're using, the only thing we have to use as a baseline is this MLB trade values. And some people say it's a little, I think at times it overestimates. I think sometimes it underestimates, but I'm going to use this as my source. Okay. So if he has a median trade value of 0.4 on their scale, there are names on here that would be tradable pieces. You have guys like Lopez, you have Schroeder, you have Henley, you have Tyler Brown, not Hunter Brown, Jimmy Endersby, Alex McKenna. And these are names that I wouldn't necessarily. Freitas Nova actually is at a 0.6. I know he's had some setbacks. Torres is not a bad pitcher. Matthew Barefoot is a 0.7. And you start getting up a little higher. JP France is a 0.8. So when you talk about getting a Vazquez, he would be a rental. Now, Marty Maldonado is a free agent next year. He's not under contract for 2023. He's an unrestricted free agent. So we don't know what role he's going to play. We don't know if the Astros will try to re-sign him. We don't know if the Astros will move him into a coaching position. And Vazquez, if he works out, and let's say you get him and he works out and he does an admirable job. He covers first a couple times, gives Julie a rest. He backs up and he works as a tandem with Marty Maldonado. I think that would be a very low cost, high reward, low cost or low risk effort on the Astros' part. And this is a thing I just want to talk about real quick before we get in the woods with this. Is if you have a small business and you're gearing up for the fall, we know that you need workers and you need to go to LinkedIn Jobs here to find all the right people. 810 million people in this professional network. What you do is you use the purple hashtag hiring frame to let the people know that you are hiring. You get screening questions. They give you tools to make it easy to focus on your candidates. So right now, LinkedIn Jobs wants to help you find candidates. Nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, as much. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. So somebody in the chat is saying that Rosenthal said that Vazquez would be traded for a major leaguer. So in that case, you'd have to trade somebody like maybe a
You could trade a
McCormick
Jose
or
Siri, or you
Siri.
wouldn't
Maybe
trade.
overpay. I mean, I know we're
Well,
down on
Siri,
Siri, but
Siri is an overpay. Every one of our major leaguers is on an
yeah,
overpay. But here's the thing: if the Red Sox are selling Martinez, Vasquez, all these guys, they don't necessarily have to have a major league player. I don't think there's a massive market for Vasquez. I think you can give them a decent piece. Chas McCormick, huge overpay. Jake Myers, you're not going to trade him because of his shoulder issue still. Jose Siri, I think you could go get a little bit more for him. You could probably get a reliever for him. So you don't want to give them too much. You don't want to oversell just for the backup catcher. Now, this is if the Contreras stuff falls through at the Astros because of the price tag, and we don't know what exactly that is, but apparently the Cubs have driven the price up because there's not 2 or 3 or 4. When Carlos Correa in that market, right? That was a
right.
flooded shortstop market. We don't have that luxury to drive the price down. And so we're just letting y'all know this is
Yeah.
like Ken Rosenthal reporting this, and what he says about Josh Bell, I think, is even more encouraging.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about G-Man Choi, but also um, Larry GM says, "Well, why is he? Why would Vasquez be the backup?" I think that Dusty Baker just prefers Maldonado. I think a lot of pitchers would prefer Maldonado, but that would be an interesting discussion because Vasquez is a starting catcher. So that would be an interesting discussion. Like if you trade for him, what would you do with Maldonado? You're not trading him, but you would have to find a way to even spread out the time. So
Well, I
let's not focus too much on this. But go ahead.
no, so you're saying Vasquez would be a backup?
Well, yeah, I mean, I said that's what we are talking about earlier. He could be backup, or maybe he becomes a starter. Who knows? I think it depends on Dusty
Yeah,
Baker and how James Clicks feel about it.
I think it also has to do with the pitching staff. I don't think that's a question we can answer because
Right,
that's a pitching staff. That's why Marty
right,
Maldonado is being overused as a catcher. They need someone else to take the brunt away. Marty Maldonado will be the main catcher period in the story, whether we like that or not, because that's his position right now. Now, Vasquez, if he's a true professional,
yeah,
which he is, he's won a World Series title. He's a good player. I'm pretty sure they would put their egos aside. And like Larry said, if he has a vesting option for $5 million next year, I'm just telling you on Spotrac, it said UFA for 2023. So that's where I got that information. The bottom line is we don't know. We're just letting y'all know what the rumblings are from legitimate major league sources, not random 58 follower accounts.
right. So I know that Patrick Creighton put out a tweet earlier this, I think it was yesterday, talking about that trade. We talked about it in the last podcast. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, we shouldn't give up a lot for G-Man Choi. But he said, Ken Rosenthal said that the Astros, according to sources, are showing interest in Choi as a possible alternative to their number one choice at first base, which is Josh Bell. And then he goes on to talk about how they can possibly the Rays can recover from losing Choi, but Choi is a option for the Astros if they can't get Bell. But I think Bell is still their primary
Oh
topic. I
yeah.
mean, choice. I think that it's just a natural fit. This situation. He's from Texas. I just think that there's not a lot of teams that really need a first baseman per se. So the Astros will be that team that probably give up a lot. I don't know how
Well,
much it would be.
yeah. Again, while the Nationals may be trying to drive the price up on him, I don't know how high you can drive the price because of him being a rental now. I don't know the ins and the outs of how they work with that with the club. If they go, hey, are you going to resign with them, or are they going to be? Are you going to be more of a value to them long term? Then maybe we drive the price up. But I do know that Ken Rosenthal did say that Houston is his preferred landing spot. Him and his wife are from Dallas. They actually just recently had a child, and that would put them about 3.5, 4 hours away from his parents. And they said it would be such a big help if they were in Texas. And you and I have kids. You and I have family here in Texas, and so we know the importance of that. I remember a couple years ago moving to Louisiana and how hard that was. And we literally moved back because we were the only family members, me and my wife and my son, in Louisiana. So we moved back, and it makes sense. And someone said earlier on the thread I posted, they were like, this makes it sound like he's really coming here. I think Josh Bell wants to be here, and I think that's great for the Astros. Okay, I think if a team wants to treat a player right, they're going to try to get him to a place where he wants to play. You don't want a disenfranchised player. You don't want a, a black mark on your record from like someone like defaming your organization, saying they blocked me from going here. We wanted to go here. So that may play into the Astros' favor, Eric.
Yeah, so I think we all are just in a waiting pattern right now to see what's going on. But I think the fact that Bell wants to come play in Houston, that's a good sign that if they do trade for him, he may be willing to sign a extension or a long term deal with the Astros. It may be, if not long term, at least a 3-year deal or something to stay with the Astros
Yeah,
because
I've said a 3 year, $15 million, 45 total would not be a bad. I mean, that would be the most money he's made. And I mean, honestly, let's be honest and let's give Texas some credit. I mean, Texas boys like to be in Texas, okay? And like you, like me, like our fans that are from this state, we have a lot of pride at being here. And if you're going to get to play in your state and get to play close to home and you get to make more money than you've ever made in your life, why wouldn't you do that? Plus, the Astros are a winning team. The Astros are a winning organization. So why wouldn't you extend yourself? Why would you go somewhere else?
yeah. So the thing that scares me is that I think the Mariners overpaid for Castillo. I think I'm not sure what the Yankees did. I think the Yankees maybe paid. I don't know if the Yankees paid enough for Benintendi. I mean, they give up 3 prospects, but I think they.
Yeah, but I don't think the Castillo overpay has any effect on Josh Bell because those are two different situations. You
Yeah.
have a starting pitcher at a premium and a first baseman who doesn't have near as much value.
Right. So that's why I think somebody like Jake Odorizzi would have some type of trade value because he's not going to demand the high price that some of the other teams would. I mean, some of the other players would, but you can still get a decent player for Odorizzi if the Astros elect to go that route. And I would. I'm actually a big Odorizzi fan. I think I like what he does when he's healthy, when he's on, but I would rather trade him than some of our younger guys, Javier Garcia, and I'm actually a big Odorizzi guy, especially what I've seen from him in the big games, namely in World Series. So, yeah, so we can just that's basically all I wanted to talk about is just what could happen. I'm not hearing anything else out there, but Vazquez is somebody that I mentioned on the podcast on the one we recorded earlier, and I just want to jump on and just tell y'all what Ken Rosenthal said. So, any closing
Now,
thoughts?
no, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think we could talk for just a couple more minutes. I know there are other names out there, and I don't know that the Astros would go out there and get them. But if you are looking for an outfielder, you've got Jock Peterson that's out there. Jock Peterson was a key part of that Atlanta Braves run. I don't know why you're putting your hand on your palm like I'm saying
I
something
hate Jock
stupid.
Peterson.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I'm trying to win a World Series here. Of course, there are a lot of players I don't like, and I didn't like the whole pearl necklace get up thing. I didn't like that. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying that that's another name that
Right.
is out there as an outfield help. Now, someone mentioned here, and I'll mention this before we close. Someone's like, "Why him? I want to get, I want to get Murphy." I think the cost for Murphy behind the plate is going to be way too high. And I think that's why you wouldn't go that route. Maybe Click's connection with the Rays helps us get something serviceable. But there's also an infielder with the Reds in Brandon Drury, which a lot of people haven't talked about. We could take a look at him. He may not have a high cost. He could give us some help there. At the end of the day, I trust that James Click and the Houston Astros are going to make the right move. The Trey Mancini thing that you're all mentioning, that may be tough because Mike Elias is over there with Baltimore. He helped build the Astros what they have today, and that's what he's building in Baltimore, which is going to be scary for the American League East. But what's cool is hopefully the next time we do a live pop-in show like this, it'll hopefully be about Josh Bell signing and, something else. I mean, heck, can you imagine if we get Contreras and Bell and we don't have to give up too much? I mean, that would just be a perfect world scenario, I think.
I would love Sean Murphy. He's not a free agent until 2026. This will be a lot of control, but you have to think about it. He is not arbitration. I mean, he's arbitration eligible next year. You're trading within your own division. The A's are going to try to get as much as they can because they don't want to face this guy over the next what 3 years or so. So it's going to be hard to trade. That doesn't mean it can't happen. We saw the Kendall Graveman trade last year, so it can happen. It's just I don't know if they're going to be able to find a match there. So
So
we'll
what
see what happens.
percentage, before we leave, what percentage I'm giving it, and I'm going to go high. I'm going to give it a 70 to 80% chance that Josh Bell becomes a Houston Astro by midnight Tuesday.
I would say so. I thought it was earlier deadline, but I thought it was like more
Well,
around 3 or something. But I could.
okay. Well, but by that time, the deal's finalized, everything's through. So by the end of the day, August 2nd, I think it's a 70 to 80% chance. Monty says 58% chance. Nice use of the numbers there, buddy. I love
Yeah.
it.
Somebody says 5 p.m. So I knew it was like
Okay,
an
5
earlier
p.m.
deadline. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's at 3 a.m. 3 p.m. Eastern. So I guess 5 p.m. Whatever.
So
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 it's
if you're in
sometime.
Australia, so if you're in Australia, it's 12 a.m. I'm joking.
Depends on what time zone you're in, mate.
Well,
So
hey, John Bruton, our buddy's in Australia, so maybe his time. Anyways, yeah, someone said, good job, 69. Yeah.
anyway, so that's all we got for this special edition of the
Thanks
Locked
for
On
hanging
Astros
out.
podcast. Make sure you go back and listen to our other one. We went more into depth about the Jose Altuve getting hit by a pitch episode, and make sure you tune in tomorrow. And as soon as more breaking news comes in, we'll break in. And my plans are to stay home for the next couple of days just to kind of be part of this trade deadline because we're here for you. And make sure you tune in, subscribe to Locked On Astros podcast, and go Stros, and we'll see you later.
Later.